In episode 510, Ryan and Jose had a great chat with Del Howison about his new book, What Fresh Hell Is This? Dark Delicacies, and his history with Clive Barker. This is the Clive Barker Podcast, where longtime fans, Ryan and Jose, interview guests, bring you the news, and take deep dives into Barker-related stuff. This episode will be available in YouTube video and podcast audio. This episode is sponsored by Don Bertram's Celebrate Imagination. Don Bertram is a longtime friend of Clive and advocate of his art, but Don's unique and inspiring paintings are for sale, and over 50% of the proceeds go to the Arts and Medicine program at the Texas Children's Cancer Center. There's even a paver at Washington, D.C. representing Celebrate Imagination. We're thrilled that this worthy cause is sponsoring our podcast again this year, and we hope that you'll consider looking over the Etsy shop to buy one of his original paintings or books. Follow the link in the show notes or click the side banner and let's see what's new with Don Bertram today. Check out his most recent paintings, Date Night, Guardian Angel 2, and Shooting Star. Plus, you can find him at the Pearland, Texas Oktoberfest for all our Texas friends. Let's welcome our other sponsor, Ed Martinez, and his YouTube channel. Lots of great special effects videos and Barker-related content. What's the latest from Ed? Hey, if you want to help us out, support us on Patreon at patreon.com/BarkerCast589. Our subscribers will get exclusive access to content not available anywhere else, like our Collector's Corner video series, rare Barker videos, and early behind-the-scenes stuff. Our supporters get to help us choose episode topics and even join us on the podcast. Our supporters also get access to the exclusive channel in our Discord server. We'll be forever grateful if you consider helping us out and subscribing to our Patreon. We owe everything to this circle of magicians, so let's give a shout out to our Patreon supporters and see what's new on Patreon. We can't thank our Patreon members enough, but I'm going to try. So thank you David Anderson, Erik Van T Holt, Daniel Elven, Amanda Stewart, Bradley Gartz, Matthew Batten, Jesse, Bennett Reingold, and Clara Leslie. Also thanks to our sponsor Don Bertram and Ed Martinez's YouTube channel. Jose revisits our time at the 2018 Texas Frightmare weekend and takes a deep dive into the Clive Barker creepypasta that almost happened. Welcome, this is episode 510 of the Clive Barker Podcast, and we have a special guest today. Welcome, Del Howison of Dark Delicacies. And today we're talking about your newest book, What Fresh Hell Is This, right?
Back up there on the shelf somewhere. How are you guys? Happy to be here.
Doing good. Thank you. Are you currently in Burbank? Is that where you're talking to us from? I am,
yeah. Talking to you from Burbank, California.
There we go.
I'm curious to know, because I've told this story a few times whenever we have Dark Delicacies news. But if you remembered when you had the Clive Barker signing for the Midnight Meat Train movie, and Clive Barker was there and Jeff Bueller was there, and I flew down from Alaska with a broken foot, and I hobbled down there for like a couple of miles from my hotel, and
I remember.
You let me sit behind Clive Barker so I didn't have to stand in line, and you called Steve Niles over to sign one of my comic books. So that, I and you gave me a ride back to the hotel when it was over.
It was a long hobble.
Yes. Yes. But that meant a lot to me, and I've told that story a million times. But yeah, that made that really special to me. And I wish that I lived in California so I could go to more events for Dark Delicacies.
Now, whereabouts are you in Alaska?
I'm in Fairbanks.
Okay. Kind of Has it started getting cold up there?
Yeah, kind of. It's like in the 40s. It gets below freezing at night now.
It was in the 50s when I woke up this morning.
Wow.
Yeah, had to run and put my winter coat on.
That's not normal.
Because in LA, it's going to be like, oh, it's 79. Better get the sweater out.
That's it. You guys, because I grew up in Michigan, and it gets mighty chilly in Michigan. In fact, plenty of times when I went to school, it would be colder where I was in Michigan than it was in Anchorage on the same day because of that lake effect from the Great Lakes and everything else. It did that. Where are you at, Joe?
I'm in Cleveland, Ohio right now.
Ah, the
Yeah,
mistake by the lake, as we used to
that's,
call
that's right. The place
it.
that used to have a river that caught on fire.
That's
Uh,
it.
we've come a
Oh,
long
wow.
way since then, actually. But it's great to talk to you today. You're this award-winning author, journalist, and actor. I mean, you've done things like uh, the Book of Lists horror, Midian Unmade, the Dark Delicacies anthologies. Dark Delicacies became like a almost like a pilgrimage site in LA for people who want to get good books and meet authors and find all sorts of interesting things. Unfortunately, that store closed on April, right? But you guys are still organizing signings organized by Dark Delicacies, correct?
Right. It closed in April because we had done 30 years plus, and okay, that's enough. Let's get on with the rest of the
Mm.
career.
Yeah.
That's
It
right.
wasn't
Yeah.
due to anything financial.
Right.
So we got to
Yeah.
close on our own terms, which I'm really happy about that. My wife and I put in a good amount of time, and
Yeah.
there it is. Now it's over with. We still have a website at darkdell.com. And we
Hmm.
still do pop-ups. I've got two pop-ups this month, one with Oliver Robbins, who was the boy in Poltergeist. He's
Oh.
got a new children's book coming out. And then one with about 20 signers with the new book from Howard Berger and Marshall Julius. Howard
Is it the
Berger from
Making Monsters
KNB
All
Special
Star?
Effects, and they're doing one called Making Monsters.
Yeah.
And that'll be fun. And then they'll have a bunch of special effects people there signing at the same time. So people are
Oh,
getting
wow.
this big extra value. So looking forward to that one.
Oh, that's awesome.
Excellent. And you've also recently won the 2025 Lifetime Achievement Award from the Horror Writer Association, you and your wife, along with director David Cronenberg, correct?
Right.
Wow.
Unfortunately, David did show up at the ceremony. I don't know what that's
Oh,
about, but
Yeah.
what can I say?
yeah.
So this wonderful book, What Fresh Hell Is This? We both read it, and we've got 18 lovely stories here with a lot of twists and turns. And I was just wondering if you could tell us, first of all, the title, right? I mean, what fresh hell is this is known to be an exasperation kind of interjection. It's a great mix of gallows humor and exasperation. Was this phrase always your choice for the title, or did it evolve from the tone of the stories inside?
It kind of evolved not necessarily from the tone of the stories inside, although in their own way, they're all horror stories,
Mm-hmm.
even though some may be science fiction or dystopian. There's the one with the girl trying to ride on a corpse truck to get out of where
Right.
she
Yes. Yeah, we were
exists.
just
Right.
talking about that before you came on.
What was a flicker of light or something is the
That's
title of
yes,
that.
that's it.
But as you know, this book is predominantly a retrospective of short stories that I've had published in a variety of different venues,
Mm-hmm.
anthologies or magazines or whatever. So a lot of the choice of what the story or the genre of the story, the tone of the story, was because of where I was hired to have it appear. So
Yeah.
it wasn't like I just sat down one time and said, "Oh, this is a good idea," and wrote the story, although that's happened in a couple of occasions. Most of them are somebody says, "Del, we need a story, a science fiction story." Or there's a short science fiction story. I think it's in that book of the two people hunting on a planet. Is that in that book? And
Um,
that was written for Weird Tales.
mm,
So if it's not in that book, it'll be in the next book, which my tentative title is Black Pearls.
Black Pearls. There we
oh,
go.
And there's only a couple of original stories that weren't published someplace else, like the mad scientist one, if you want to use that, of the doctor professor trying to heal her husband
right.
out of
Yeah.
guilt because she caused the accident that burnt him so badly. So she's trying to heal him. And I kind of wrote it from the angle of the mad scientist because, that's a forgotten genre. I haven't seen a mad scientist story or a film in a long time. And that's what prompted me to
Yeah.
write that.
That's
Yeah,
right.
like I think of like From Beyond, and
And that's what, 20 years at least?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I remember back in the day, Universal movies, they not only had the Wolfman and Dracula, but they also had in one or two movies like the mad scientist with a hunchback assistant showing up and like his little cart going through the forest and stuff like that. So
It was fun. They did the one with the where he turned people into little miniature people and devil dolls and things like that. But they were always megalomaniacs, that wanted to
Right.
conquer the world because they had the
Yeah.
ultimate answer. They were all like Trump, So
right.
I thought
Yeah.
it was time to write
Yeah.
a mad scientist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well,
just
and it's an interesting journey to show how, a regular person could go to that extreme with the right set of circumstances. You know, s-
Right. Right,
yeah.
because they think they're right. It's like
Yeah.
none of the bad guys in any of the stories or the movies or anything else that we look at think that they're wrong. They think that they're right
Yeah.
and just misunderstood. The world doesn't get it.
Yeah.
they're the
Well,
heroes of
well,
their own
and in
story.
this case, I have to wonder if I were in her position, would I make the same choices or not?
Exactly, and
Yeah.
she's guilt-ridden. I mean, she has
Yeah.
a reason to do that because she thinks the whole problem exists because of an accident.
Yeah. Yeah, even though he seems to be in good spirits and doesn't seem to really blame her exactly.
There's not a lot of choice there, I think.
Yeah.
on on his
Right.
it's
Right.
either make the best of whatever's going on or shoot yourself
Yeah.
in the head.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
because he depends completely on her.
And
Yeah.
uh and some of these stories were written over different periods of time. I think one of them comes all the way back from like 1969. Like you mentioned in your book, you've reworked some of these stories over the years, as
Sure.
most authors tend to do. We get to see a little bit of the evolution of your style, I guess, from the different stories being from different times. But what do you think changed the most about your writing style since your early work?
Confidence.
Yeah.
I when I started writing, I'm not confident at all. Now I know from novels and short stories and essays and stuff, I know that I can write something and get my style is pretty much first draft is puke it up on the paper. I don't
Hmm.
worry about punctuation and capitalization and putting things in the right order because I know
Mm.
when I put it in the drawer and come back to it after 2 weeks to give it time to cogitate in my mind there, that I will then be reading it with fresh eyes and I will gradually flesh it out, fix it, put in the character, shade it, color it. But the first time around, when I was writing early on, it was like, I have to get it perfect. There was a writer I was talking to the other day, and he said when he started writing, finally his instructor said to him, "Stop, just stop. What you're doing is you're setting a table and you're putting that spoon there on the table, and then you're going, no, think the spoon needs to be over here. And then you look
Oh,
at it and
yeah.
you go, no, it needs to be next to the fork. And you never get the thing written.
Right.
Just puke
Yeah.
it up and get it. You can't fix something that isn't there.
You
What
can't
yeah,
get
what is
lost in
that
the
quote? It's
details.
like the enemy of progress is I forget what that quote is, but
Perfection
yeah.
or something like
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you spend so much trying to the first time you write something,
Yeah.
it's for you. You're getting
Mhm.
everything out. Second time you write something, when you rewrite it, it's for the reader. And you're trying to do it from his angle. Then the third time and beyond, it's like that needs tweaking, or we need a little color there, or I need to figure out a little bit more background on this
Mhm.
character. But the first time's you, second time is the reader.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes
And
sense.
you had mentioned on confidence, I think in the interview at the end of the book, you had mentioned that you didn't take compliments very well, and I totally agree. I mean, understand that because I'm the same way, and you would
Well,
kind of
it's kind of an
make jokes.
embarrassment thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I what I do typically if people compliment me is I try to change the subject.
I think it was
And
Peter Atkins who said to me, Del, just say thank you because the person giving you the compliment is actually for the person. When you go to a signing and you go up to Clive, let's say, and go, "Oh, I
yeah,
love your work," he
yeah.
says, "Thank you very much." And he's very good with that. I was always like, yeah, I'm not happy. They don't care if you're not happy. Just say thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
Some of these stories, even though they're horror, they don't really delve a lot into supernatural. And I think you've described yourself as someone who loves horror that's grounded in humanity. There are definitely a few stories here that are more about the way people see the world. For example, there's a story that relates to someone who's on life support. There's a story about folklore that people think their daughter is cursed and they need to do something to end the curse. And then usually at the end of the story, in some of them, there's this usually this it all comes together in the last paragraph. And it's such a interesting way that happens that I'm like, where's the story going? And then all of a sudden it makes complete sense. Sometimes just a sentence at the end, or a
Right.
guy who's robbing someone in the middle of the night and they don't realize that they're robbing someone that they know. I think those are really, truly horrible moments of realization. And I think that works really well in these horror stories. But also, of course, the ones with the monsters. One of my favorite one is the one about the last great monster.
Yeah.
That was my favorite story in this book.
Mine too. Yeah.
I had a lot of fun reading that one.
And
I
I
also
don't, you're
liked-
right.
I-
I don't use supernatural a lot, and I don't use monsters a lot unless they're in the person's mind or the person is the monster. And I think that came from Ray Bradbury. And I think I say in the book somewhere that, like, I'm not a science fiction writer. It's not my genre. I don't really enjoy the majority of it because it's very cold to me. It's about spaceships and robots, and I like the people, So something like, I don't know if you saw the film Enemy Mine,
Right. Yeah.
absolutely.
which is about two people, but it's a science fiction thing.
Yeah.
Then I relate to that, or the book Stranger in a Strange Land, or
Right,
something
yeah.
like that. So that's why I have a problem with it. And I have a problem with big canvases. I can't write El Cid. I can't
Yeah.
do that kind of thing. So Ray Bradbury told me, no matter the canvas, no matter the genre, it's about the people. Because if the reader doesn't care about the individuals, then it doesn't matter what happens to them, where it is, how spectacular the canvas is. They care about the people. As I learned to write over the years, it kind of forced me into smaller things, which doesn't always work into my favor, but it's more comfortable writing for me.
When you say about the people, do you mean like being relatable or being believable?
Both, actually.
Okay.
But being relatable in why would somebody do that? You don't just say, oh, this guy stepped out in front of the bus and got smashed, without
Yeah.
at some point giving him motivation, making
Yeah.
the people understand why somebody did that,
Yeah.
And sometimes it's also scary when you can't relate to another person. You don't understand them. For
There's
example,
always that fish out of water aspect that what would
Yeah.
it be if you were caught in that situation,
right,
Like
right.
like your favorite one, The Last Great Monster, she's accidentally caught in an accident and involved in the monster business. So
right,
Yeah.
right.
that was a touch at making fun of reality TV there. So
Sure. When there's people that know they're going to get a scoop in the middle of the night and they drag a cameraman into the woods. But you mentioned Ray Bradbury, and I think I understand what you mean, because one of my favorite Ray Bradbury stories is called Heavyset. It's a story where nothing really serious happens, but it's just this tension between this adult and his mother, and it's kind of like this suffocating independent relationship. I don't know if you remember Heavyset. It ends with an adult son who's obsessed about working out, and he lives with his mother. He doesn't have a girlfriend. And the last scene is him going to bed, laying next to his mother. And he's like practicing with those things that you practice with your hands. Those
right, the squeeze things. Yeah,
and his mother is just terrified in bed, listening to those squeaky things all night long. And it's just such a scary moment. And nothing really is happening there. It's just a tension.
It's all here.
It's all here, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
That's interesting.
I think it's a Bradbury story, and it's about a small town, and there is a murder rapist on the loose somewhere. And that's just kind of background story. But it's about these two ladies who are friends, They live alone, but once a week they get together and they go to the local theater and watch the movie together and have popcorn and conversation, and it gives them a chance to relate to each other. One of them lives on the other side of the park. So after the theater, they say goodbye, have a little chat about the movie, and then they go their separate ways to go home. And the one that has to go through the park, it's like go through the park and it dips down into the trees and stuff, and then up the other side of the park.
Mhm.
So a good chunk of the story is her walking through the park, which the way Bradbury writes it is almost you walking through the park after dark and alone and being a person who feels vulnerable and whatever. And she builds up this whole thing of, oh, the killer is probably here and whatever. And by the time she gets to her front porch and gets the key out of her pocketbook there, she's worked herself into a big tizzy. And she unlocks the door and she goes in the house and she shuts the door and kind of leans against it, just slowing her heart down when a voice behind her says, "Oh, hello there."
Oh,
And that's the end of the story, you know. So
right.
it's about the people, not
Yeah.
anything else, you know.
Yeah.
Tension and release.
Yep.
Yeah.
And another person I got a lot from was Robert Bloch. I met him a few times, but Robert Bloch was certainly the master of the twist ending. His stories were just readable. You go, where's it going? Where's it going? Where's it going? And then it goes that way. So I think I picked up a lot of that from him. I picked up the people and being personable from Bradbury. And then other people along the way, Joe Lansdale, different people like that. I picked up different
Richard
little
Matheson.
clues. Yeah. Pete
Yeah.
Atkins, who I think is a great writer. And he's
Absolutely.
written a lot of like crime short stories. He's
Mhm.
got one I know in one of the Dark Delicacies books. John Ferris, just a lot of different
Yeah.
people. Brian Lumley in the old days.
Yeah, necroscope, right?
Necroscope.
Yeah.
He wrote a little slower than I liked. I mean, I remember the first time I tried to read Necroscope, and the first 100 pages, for those who don't know, a necroscope is someone who can talk to the dead or channel the dead, whatever.
Mhm.
Somebody goes into the woods and they hear this voice. It's going to be the necroscopy thing, and they go home. That was 100 pages. I went, I just can't write that much description.
Right.
Yeah.
Because nothing
That kind
really
of
happened except that, you know.
that stopped me from finishing. I never finished Necroscope because of
Yep.
that.
But his prose, like Ramsey Campbell too, has some very beautiful moments because I believe that the words, the best writing to me come from songs. People like John Prine and different storytellers who can tell you an entire story in like 3 lines just by the imagery they use. And I try to make my sentences and my paragraphs, which are like stanzas to music, sing, to have a rhythm. If it has a rhythm, then the people follow along. Short sentences and long sentences, and short paragraphs and long sentences. And I really love the rhythm of conversations, so I play with that a lot.
This book also features a foreword by Clive Barker, which feels like a kind of a full circle moment, given your long relationship and friendship and shared history through Dark Delicacies. How did that collaboration come about, and what does this contribution mean to you personally?
Well, it means a lot to me to have somebody like Clive write the foreword, but we've known each other now for probably 30 years.
Mhm.
I met him doing Lord of Illusion, and
You
I was
show up
at
in the Pantages Theater, right?
the Pantages. That's where I met him.
Wearing a tuxedo.
You have to dress right, right?
Of
No,
course.
so we were, my wife and I, Sue, were in the audience because it was all just extras. They filled the Pantages with audience. And at one point, there was like a number under your seat or something like that. And Clive drew a number and it was mine. And we didn't know each other at all at that point. And it was so that the winner went up on stage and gave you a certificate or something or other, and was going to be in a scene in that film.
Oh.
So I got my number picked and met Clive, and it was
Wow.
history ever since.
Huh.
And he was one of the first early, very important supporters of Dark Delicacies. He was behind it from the start. So that meant a lot to me. And then out of the blue, I had written a Western novel called The Survival of Margaret Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
And Clive read it and he wrote probably the most beautiful critique I have ever received. And in the critique, he said, I thought after I read it that I would set it aside. I'm paraphrasing here, set it aside and think about it. But I couldn't help myself. And within 2 weeks, I reread the novel again. And
Wow.
that meant so much to me that when I got this book together to put out a collection, I asked him to do the forward, and he said, "You bet." So there it is.
Wow. Oh, that's great. I remember at the signing that I went to, he
Was
sort
that
of
for the Demon book?
it was for the Midnight Meat Train movie, and Jeff Bueller
Oh.
was there, the screenwriter.
And was the
Also,
director there too?
no,
What is he? He's a Japanese director,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
Ryuhei Kitamura.
Kitamura.
Easy for you to
Yeah.
say.
So, but I remember that Clive had kind of stopped the signing at the start so that he could shop around a little bit first before opening the doors.
Right.
I only knew that because I was inside. I got to sit down by the table because of my broken foot. But
Yeah. You did that
yeah.
on purpose, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he seemed to really love Dark Delicacies, and I imagine he was probably thinking, I haven't been here in a while. I just really need to take some time to shop around
Yeah,
before.
and he hadn't, and it was kind of a home away from home for him.
Yeah.
So the him and Guillermo del Toro is another one who used to kind of get there so he could relax a little bit, that kind of thing. I'm looking
Oh,
forward to
wow.
Frankenstein, by the way. So
Yeah, absolutely. Me
Oh,
too.
wow. Yeah,
I'm
right.
looking forward to that one. So, talking about movies, I mean, some of your fiction, like The Lost Herd, which is the first story in this book, did make the leap to the screen with Mick Garris's anthology series Fear Itself. Were you thinking cinematically when you were creating this collection, or do you see any potential adaptations in the other 17 tales in this book?
well, each one written at different times for different venues. I always, when I write, I always see it in my head. So in that essence, I guess I do see them cinematically. Especially if you read the Western Survival of Margaret Thomas, it is definitely written cinematically and chronologically, so that the story moves across like that. It helps me place things. I think that's a thing for me, that growing up in the age of film and television and streaming and all of that stuff, I think we can't get rid of that. If I had written 100 years ago, I'm sure the stories would be much different in their structure and approach.
Right, right. I mean,
Do you
right
still have
now,
copies of the Survival of Margaret Thomas on the Dark Delicacies site?
Yes. And I even know the author, we can get him to sign it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I've still got it. Came out in hardback. There were 1,000 copies came out in hardback. The publisher, who was Gale, Gale, predominantly publishes for libraries. So the
Oh, okay.
1,000 copies sold out between Dark Delicacies and all the libraries. And then I had to go. There was also a big letter edition for us old people, I guess. And
Hmm.
then when the 1,000 copies sold out, my contract with Gale was over with, and we got the rights back. And I went to Pandy Press, which is run by Casey Lansdale, Joe Lansdale's daughter,
Oh,
and they put out a trade paperback version, and because it
okay.
never had one. And then when I got the rights back from them, I went to my agent, who has Jabberwocky Literary Agency, and eventually, as my books roll downhill like water and I get the final rights back, then they published it. So the copies we have right now are the trade paperback published by Jabberwocky Literary Agency. And I
Oh,
think
okay.
it's available from us. It's available on bookshop.org, I'm sure.
Okay.
And then all the other satanic places like Amazon and whatever.
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
I've
well, and
always
speaking
enjoyed.
of that, I had a little trouble, just because of my old eyes, and I ended up I have the hardcover, but I ended up also buying the Kindle version because the bright screen made it so much easier for me to read. I don't know
Exactly.
what.
If I had to, I would do that. I have a real hard time reading a book on Kindle, and it's not because I can't read it. It's because it doesn't retain the way it does when I'm reading off the
Oh,
page.
Right,
yeah,
right. You
yeah.
engage with a book in a different way than a Kindle. This was published by Crystal Lake, which Crystal Lake has been putting out a lot of amazing books lately.
They have
Really,
Joe Meinhardt over there in South Africa.
yeah,
Oh, wow.
that's
It,
great.
it's amazing how publishers and everything with this age of streaming we were talking about, suddenly I have this book is published in South Africa and this book might be published in Europe or whatever. It's kind of
Oh,
cool.
wow.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I also particularly like The Humps in the Field. So this one was done in collaboration with William Smith, right?
Right, right.
That
That was the editor for that anthology wanted to hire people that it would be one person in entertainment and an author to co-write horror stories to fill their book because the name of the book was something about what was it, like Last Matinee or something? It's probably in the prologue of the book, but it referred to entertainment. So William Smith was a friend of mine. People remember him from all the Angel motorcycle movies, and he had one of the best fight scenes ever, barefisted with Clint Eastwood in Every Which Way But Loose.
Oh, yeah,
And,
right.
so that was a joy. And I asked him, what do you want to do? And he said, well, let's write a short story about my angel character. And then
Oh
we
my
set
gosh.
it in the drive-in, and away we went.
Yeah, that
I think,
drive-in setting is very evocative of a time that's kind of lost in Americana.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not like it brings back memories for some of the new readers now who are
Sure.
just turning 20 or something. They
Right,
don't even know what we're
right.
talking about
Yeah.
because I
Well,
was like halfway into the book before I went, damn, those humps look like grave sites.
oh, yeah. And actually, some of the most effective horror is the most relatable. I was thinking about Lucky, and that poor. That's the one with the truck driver woman,
Right,
right? And
right.
oh man, yeah, it's painful to read that story because it doesn't seem like there's no way she's gonna get out of this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's true, and that came from a newspaper article my mom found about. I changed the story somewhat, but a true story of somebody in their truck in the winter in the Midwest being caught. And I used to watch that show on like Discover or one of those about the truckers driving the stuff across the through the woods, and then suddenly you got a big tractor trailer, and a part of it has to cross a frozen lake, and this is real, to
oh
get supplies to these
yeah,
villages or where they're building pipelines or stuff like that. It's just
yeah.
nuts, if you ask me.
Yeah. Yeah, and one thing I really like about this book too is that you tell the history of each story, and what anthology you might have been writing them for. Like that Lucky one was someone was writing books to go at truck stops, right? To
Yeah, Eric Miller, the
yeah,
editor, decided that that's probably an open market, that the truckers pull into the truck stops and grab something to eat and maybe a couple of things because they sleep in the cab, that
yeah,
maybe they'd like to have books that were aimed.
yeah,
Every story had to have a big rig in it or a truck of some sort.
yeah.
And
Right,
he did that one, and he did a science fiction one,
The
which is where I
the
think my science fiction story went because it had to do with a truck
yeah,
going
like
across
a dump truck full
and
of corpses, right?
a truck full of corpses, mostly roadkill kind of stuff, but
Yeah,
certainly people too. Yeah, so it was all truck. And I think he got undone by books on tape, audiobooks, and the
oh
Kindle because a trucker could put 100 books on a Kindle
Yep.
instead of
yeah,
having to buy individual books.
right, yeah, and they can listen to them while they're driving, and you can't. Yeah,
Exactly. Keep them
right.
company. It's hard
Yeah.
to do this, like reading the book while you're
Yeah, yeah, probably shouldn't do that.
probably shouldn't do that.
One
Uh,
one story that involves sometimes the horror. I wouldn't say horror, but more like the ignorance or the naivete of children. It's like Papa's Arms, right? I mean, Papa's Arms is a short story, but it's really funny because
A true story.
a true
Yeah,
story, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
true
for
story.
chicken soup from the soul, or
Yeah.
Uh,
yeah,
the last book chain I ever thought I would write for, Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I think much like baby teeth falling off and new ones growing is already kind of scary enough when you're a kid because you know you're gonna have to go through the
Yeah.
pain of getting the tooth pulled out and whatever, and then another one's coming up.
or
But
the
this one's,
imagined pain anyway.
or you imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
And this one gets a little more body horror because it reminds me of, like, Calvin and Hobbes, when the dad tells Calvin a story about, he asks him a question and then the dad gives him an answer that's made up, and kids don't know any better. So this one
Right.
is really, really funny. Like,
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
reprinted it. They did it in that book, and then they put out a big book once a year of their favorite stories on such and such a theme, and they put one out on their favorite humorous stories that were written.
Yeah.
And they bought the story from me a second
Oh,
time
wow.
to reprint it, which was cool. But it's funny, but it's horror.
Sure.
Yeah.
Of
Right,
course,
right.
yeah, it is scary. One thing that I have to say here is that anybody who's ever been related to making anthologies, I owe them a big debt of gratitude, because anthologies are what kind of drove me into finding many, many good authors over the years,
Mhm.
especially theme anthologies. There was a series of anthologies, like sci-fi anthologies, a lot of them really good, that I read, that introduced me to Asimov and other
Probably Bradbury and
Silverberg, Bradbury, Paul Anderson, stuff like that. But then also horror ones. There was some really good horror anthologies, and the Dark Delicacies are really good. I see, Ryan, you have a volume back there?
I have 3 of them actually.
Three
Yeah.
of them. There you go.
This one has a Clive Barker short story that at that time you couldn't get anywhere else. I think it might have been reprinted somewhere now. Heichel's Tale, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
it
Heichel's Tale.
was actually adapted by Mick Garris for
Yeah.
his
Masters
series,
of
like
Horror.
my short story was.
Yeah.
If
And it-
people have, but it was the first iteration of that series.
Yeah.
Had Masters of Horror,
Yeah.
and he adapted it for that. But it had never been in like story form anywhere. So
Yeah.
Clive sent me that one for an entry into the book, which was kind of cool. And then he
Yeah,
did a
yeah.
sonnet in the second one.
And so I've always been a huge fan of anthologies, and I think that there's a lot of like value in anthologies because it directs people to finding out new stuff. And I know you mentioned some of your seminal authors that inspired you at the end interview of this book, but what new voices would you like to recommend that you've experienced recently when it comes to horror?
Well, I think obviously we've got a whole new school of authors coming up. I'm in the far end of the dying breed, and the new ones who are standing on those shoulders and then people on theirs are coming through. The people like Paul Tremblay
Mhm.
and Eric LaRocca, is that his name? I think he writes short stories, but he's also written a couple of novellas. There's some of the female horrors. I can't think of her name, but she wrote a horror book on the Donner Party.
Oh,
Oh,
I
wow.
heard about that recently. I think I
Yeah.
saw that on Instagram.
She puts out about a book a year, and she's very, very good. I'm
Recommendations?
still writing, like I have a short story in that new Western book. Hang on, I have a bookcase of some great books here by Del Howison. No, let's see.
Sure.
All right.
It's Silverado Press. I don't know if this will ever focus.
Oh, Western Stories
Uh,
by today's top writers.
Yeah.
All right.
And the idea behind this book, which was edited by Jeff Marriott, who used to be one of the owners of the bookstore down in San Diego that did a lot of horror and sci-fi, was that we all had to take a true event that happened in the Old West and write a short story that involved it. So my entry, of course, had to be a horror. I took the burning of Cripple Creek, because Cripple Creek, Colorado, there was a lantern knocked over in the dance hall, and it started a fire, and half of the town burnt down.
Oh,
And 2 weeks later, their restaurant caught on fire, and the other half of the town burnt down.
oh my
wow.
God.
Jeez.
So then I said, how do I take a canvas that big? Went back to Bradbury again, going full circle in our conversation here, and wrote it about a couple of people. It wasn't about the fire, it was about them and then the fire. kind of thing.
Right. And how it affects that.
But I think most of the stories in there are fairly straight Western stories.
Mhm.
I think mine may be the only horror story in there. So if you're a horror fan, don't buy the book just for horror. But
Right.
if you just like good writing, there's plenty of good writing in there. It's just all set in the 1870s or 1880s, whatever. Whereas
So
you live in the
earlier,
last frontier, Ryan.
Yeah.
right. So earlier you had mentioned that there was, it sounds like you're making a second book of, you have more stories to put into
Black
a
Pearl.
I have
second
4
compilation.
stories at this time. How many did you say was in the last one? 18 or something?
18.
18, yeah.
Okay, so I've still got a ways to go. And I'm
Oh,
working
okay.
on 2
Yeah.
novels right now.
Yeah.
One of them is set in nowadays about drug running, immigrant smuggling, and a very strange pigment invented for tattooing. So I'm
Oh,
working
wow.
on that one right now. Takes place in the Southwest where the border, you can hide things out. And then I'm also writing a book right now called I, Dowser, which takes place about 1909, starts in New York but goes across the country. And it's about somebody who has the gift of dowsing, where
Uh-huh.
Right.
a lot of
With
people
that
use the stick.
Y-shaped stick and yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, but
searching for water.
they don't find water and they don't find oil. They
Okay.
find souls. So
Ah,
Whoa.
that's the horror novel. So we'll see how that
Okay.
comes along. So I
Wow.
have to write short stories in and around that, but I have 4 already that have been published, and we'll keep trying.
All right.
it's
Yeah,
wonderful.
I wish that Clive Barker would collect all of his stories that appear in all of these various compilations the way you have with What Fresh Hell Is This? He's got
We
a good probably
offered.
20.
I talked to Clive last year because he wanted to make a comeback, I
Hmm.
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, short story.
Because he's been out of the mainstream there for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And we had talked about doing a collection that I would do for his book, what he did for mine, and I had a publisher who was interested in doing a mainstream publisher, and
Yeah.
he turned it down because they had ideas about how they wanted to come out and in what order as far as his re hello
Mm.
society kind of thing. And
Oh, I
I
see.
don't think that ever happened, but it snuffed what we were planning on doing.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
It's his stuff. He can decide when and where he wants to
Yeah.
do it.
Of course.
Yeah. He's been talking about that for probably 20 years about doing a book like that. It was the Scarlet Gospels and it was Black as the Devil's Rainbow. And it's, yeah, and then they ended up making Tonight Again, which mostly had newer stories
Poetry.
that had never been published before.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
some
he
poetry.
has plenty of stories that only appeared in one anthology, or like he could take Haeckel's Tale from
Yeah.
mine, put it in this collection, because it's just so much easier. People can't discover a lot of a writer's short stories when it's in a bunch of different works. Oh, I don't get
Yeah.
Weird Tales magazine, or I don't never saw that book, or
Yeah.
whatever it
Or
is.
the London Book of Short Stories.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And to find that stuff, a lot of it is now falling into some sort of obscurity. So.
Later this month, a movie is going to come out that was directed by Spider One, called Big Baby, and you have a cameo in that movie, right?
I have what I call a sneeze cameo in that.
Okay, sneeze and you miss.
If you sneeze, you close your eyes, so you'd miss
You'd
me.
miss it. Okay.
But they also shot it. It was the last film that had a scene shot at Dark Delicacies,
Ah,
Oh.
and they turned Dark Delicacies into a Halloween kind of store where you can buy masks and costumes and
Oh,
stuff.
okay.
The guy who becomes Big Baby, the serial killer, whatever, not giving it anything
sure.
really away. He lumbers through Dark Delicacies, which they dressed in, made it really dark and put like purples and reds and weird colors. And then he buys the baby mask that is on the poster, if you look at the poster, from me,
Oh.
and
Ah,
goes on his way. I guess that makes me a monster creator. I don't know.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
So
much.
I have one line and it's a sneeze cameo, but there's the store has a lot more time than I do. So
Right. Much like Michael Myers grabbing the Shatner mask off the shelf. That's the
Right.
moment
kind of the
where,
same way, except this
Yeah.
guy actually says, I want that mask.
yeah,
So
he buys it.
Oh, okay.
he buys it. And in fact, the premiere of that is at Screamfest here in Hollywood. And all the cast and crew will all be gathering there. It's on, let me look at this calendar over here. It looks like it's the 19th, I think.
Mhm.
Oh no, it's on a Thursday. It's the 16th.
There we go.
So that sounds good. And by the way, one of the producers was Cher on that film.
Right.
Oh,
I read
yeah,
about
yeah.
that. Yeah. That's interesting. The
And Chaz is in there. I got to spend a little time with Chaz, so that was fun.
Chaz Bono, right,
Yeah.
right. This book that is going to that you guys are going to do a signing, Making Monsters, is that going to be effects related, or is it going to be stories? Is it going to be like inside stories, like stories about making movies?
The first book, which wasn't called Making Monsters, what was the name of that? I'll tell you.
Oh, Masters of Makeup Effects.
Yeah. So that was the first book.
Right.
And that had a lot of stories about each effect person, the films they work on, and interesting effects that they dealt with. This one is more like everybody who's been involved. I mean, I'm in it and they have some quotes, and I think there's a picture of me with Ray Harryhausen and different things like that. Small part of it, but all these different monster makers are actors who were suit people, what we call suit people, that put on the whole thing with the heads and stuff. And it's like quotes and different tales that they tell in that. Whereas this book over here was more of a making of and how did they do it and that kind of thing. This is not. This is more broken into snippets and quotes. And I just went through it for like the 20th time. I posted and I found something new in there again because it's like the Book of Lists horror. It's the kind of thing you could open up anywhere and just kind of read.
Yeah, I'm crazy about these books because, well, recently we talked to, recently it was about almost a year ago, but we spoke with Stephen Jones. He had that book about VHS covers, which was really amazing, super illustrated. And I love
think
the
it's still
special
on your website, right?
Yeah.
The VHS from Hell. Yeah.
And I like to collect books from special effects guys. I've got the Rick Baker 2-volume thing up there.
That's a beautiful book, is it not?
Yeah, I know. And Howard Berger, I think, had another one, another book that's still available.
And you had Grady Hendrix did that book on all the paperback covers from the cheesy days.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I can't remember the name of it, but it inspired people to go out to used bookstores and buy all the paperbacks.
That's great.
I like the cover for the Making Monsters because it's a cover by Jason Edmondson. He's well known in the poster world because he does that series of just the eyes of the characters. Yeah, he's got Terrifier there on the cover. He's got the Gremlins. He's got the blue vampire with the.
It's got like eyes. What six or so characters.
And Frankenstein all stacked up, and it's a great cover. It
reminds me of those old flip books where you could turn just the eyes or the mouth, and
you could make a monster.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I was a kid, I would draw monsters and then I would cut them, and I would make one of those little books so we could make our own monsters. That's fun. So it looks like you're keeping busy in your retirement. I guess I mean retirement, but you probably are going to tell me you're not retired.
Well, yeah, I guess not. We're doing a lot of writing. I've been pushing up the acting part of everything. Mm-hmm. So I'm SAG and I've got an agent, but when I get a little low on dough, I'll take a background thing or whatever. So you might go, wait, is that Del back there in the park or what?
You got to put that iconic hair to work, Del.
That's it. Make it happen for you. The trouble is, in background, I discovered, I just shot one in Pasadena not too long ago, last week, and they use the background actors a lot in the same shoot, but they'll put a different hat on them or a different coat. But they go, he's a little too recognizable. I get one bite of the apple and then I have to go home. So
yeah.
You can't just put one of those glasses with a fake nose and a mustache.
No, this still hangs out,
Yeah.
This is the podcast of the long hairs today.
Yeah.
That's great. This
I'm
was
going
a lot
for
of
that,
fun.
but it's not anywhere near as close as is
My
yours.
wife said to me today, we were yard sailing today. We were coming back from a yard sale, and she goes, "How do you do that?" She goes, "I've known at least 20 years that you haven't had a haircut, and yet my hair does not get any longer than what it was 20 years ago. It
Yeah.
grows to a point and it
Mhm.
just stops." She
Yeah.
goes, "I wish I could do that because I have to keep going and, getting trims and stuff." I
That's
said, "I
funny.
just go like this and I make it stop."
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, I had
Uh,
my haircut person got in an argument with me on Facebook about political stuff. She was like MAGA and all this. And so
Right.
she just stopped taking my calls. And then so in 2020, I stopped getting haircuts. And this is it. This is kind of the result.
And it kind of stopped at a point.
Yeah, not as
Uh,
long as yours.
But you got to, I mean, maybe once in a while you got to trim some split ends or something.
That
But
maybe that's what it is.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
now you gotta grow a mustache, Ryan. You gotta
There
grow
Yeah.
you
the
go.
mustache. You gotta grow
You
a
Yeah.
could
beard.
do stand-ins with me. See, you could.
That would be fun.
So when readers finish What Fresh Hell Is This, what would you hope lingers with your readers? Like fear, reflection, or maybe recognition of themselves in the madness?
Well, I hope they have some recognition, because if you have some piece of recognition, you relate to the character more, the story becomes more real, the writing becomes more real. But I hope they go away with a, just a little touch of skewed vision to the world, that everything that you see isn't exactly what you see. I love paying no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Right?
I love
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
I love the illusion, and I
Mhm.
think the illusion is very important. And that person eating at the table next to you that looks like a nice school teacher could just be some wacko who's got things in his basement or something. So,
Yeah.
the most disturbing story in the book to me was the one about the father teaching his kid. That's a very disturbing story, and part of the disturbing story, I don't remember the title of it, but father's in the title, I believe. Part of the disturbing is that the kid takes so readily to the philosophy that, although he doesn't buy the religion as much
Mhm.
and kind of goes on his own philosophical trip, he buys into being able to do whatever you want to do.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. There's that story of the dad that is always in the basement, and we never
Oh,
see what
right.
he's
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
in the
Yeah.
basement. And he wants to create his own religion. That was probably my second favorite story in the book. That
Trying
was really
to
good.
create to revive people who are dead, right? Or
Yeah,
create
it's a little
zombies.
bit of a,
Right.
a slight take
Whereas
on
his son ended up reviving someone who was, well, they don't revive, but it revives him in a very different manner.
right,
Yeah.
right.
But by making it
Exactly.
into puberty there, it's
Yeah. Oh,
Right.
and another one, just to be done with my favorite stories, was the Tingler, and not just because of the Vincent Price reference.
Yeah.
The Tingler is loose. The Tingler is loose in the theater. Scream for your lives.
dream. But that
But the
medical
device,
device
yeah,
that I wrote about in that is an
it's
actual
real.
medical device.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's fun to take things, once again, grounding in real life,
Mhm.
and then
Mhm.
expanding it and finding the horrific in one direction or another.
Yeah. It's like, let's imagine this is a new technology. What horrible things could it cause as a side effect? It's always invasive to think of like things being implanted into you and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that was also another one of my
I mean,
favorite ones.
one of the favorite phrases is, "What could go wrong?"
Right, right.
Right. Yeah.
We'll find out, won't we? Yep.
Yeah.
That's almost as scary as, "Here, hold my beer." It's the same kind of thing. What could
Yeah.
go wrong?
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah, really enjoyed it. I do recommend this.
Yeah.
People, can they buy this autographed from Dark Delicacies website, or is there a way that
They
they can do that?
can at darkdell.com.
Mhm.
And if they put in the comment section that they want it personalized and to whom, I'll do that.
That's wonderful.
All of my
Yeah.
books are up
Mine
there.
came autographed.
There you go. So
That
that's
sounds
the way
great.
to do it. Or like I say, you can go to bookshop.org or any of the other services, but it won't be autographed.
Yeah.
I will
and
be
we've got a
in.
link to the store, to your store, on the show notes, so
Good.
people
Thank you
can
very much. I will
buy the
be in
hardcover
Las
or the trade
Vegas.
paperback.
Only paperbacks have left. Oh, there's hardbacks or paperbacks of What Fresh Hell.
Yeah.
There's both, but only paperbacks of the Margaret Thomas book,
Yeah.
and a lot of the other ones, like When Werewolves Attack and Vampires Don't Sleep Alone and all of those. I will be in Vegas next week. I don't know. They're having the Las Vegas Book Fair. So I
Oh,
will be there selling and in the booth with the Horror Writers Association. And they can look that up online if you're somewhere near Vegas,
Yeah,
because this
we'll
might be
find
up
it,
by
link to
then,
it.
right? This goes up in
yeah.
a couple of days, you figure?
Tomorrow. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think the
Yeah.
Vegas Book Fair is Saturday, October 18th. So
So there you go. We'll be up a week before the book fair happens. So come on by and say hello.
Yeah.
awesome.
Anybody who's in Las Vegas.
And who isn't? You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, of course, the signing for Making Monsters, the all-star signing, is going to take place at Emerald Nights in Burbank Boulevard, and it's hosted by Dark Delicacies. And you'll be able to find people like Howard Berger and Marshall Julius and a lot of other special guests.
And if you're into Oliver Robbins from Poltergeist, his signing, Sunset Scares, which is a children's graphic novel book, he will be signing 2 weeks before. So he will be like on the 12th, also at Emerald Nights. I'm blocking the light to see my calendar on the wall.
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And he also said that if you have Poltergeist things like the poster stuff you want signed, I don't think he charges much for signing other items. The books, of course, all get signed for free. You make the purchase of the book, you do it. But if you bring other things in, so you could bring in your Poltergeist posters or whatever and get it signed. For
Excellent.
your favorite clown doll to choke him. Take him.
Right. Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
it's amazing to think that movie was PG, because growing up I always thought it was so terrifying.
It was a very scary movie, and that swimming pool scene is great.
Yeah.
That whole thing,
right.
the sides are caving in on you, and you can't get out, and the skeletons
were real. They were real from a college or hospital college or something like that, which is disturbing to say the least.
I want a rope tied to me. Pull me out, guys.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Del, this was great. I really had a great time talking to you and reading your book. And
I appreciate it, guys.
I hope that whenever you have anything going, give us a holler. We'll get you in, even if it's just for 20 minutes. And definitely looking forward to the next book.
And feel free to get in touch, Ryan. You've got my email and everything. So
yes. Yeah, definitely.
Let me know if you need something. And hope to be seeing you guys down the road.
All right. Well,
thank you so much, Del. I hope you and Sue have a great weekend.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And this podcast, having no beginning, will have no end. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you have subscribed or followed our podcast. You can find the Clive Barker Podcast wherever you find audio. Show notes for this episode, as well as news and reviews, can be found at our website at www.clivebarkercast.com. The Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial podcast and blog that's not affiliated with Clive Barker or Seraphim Inc. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans. You can chat with us on our Facebook BarkerCast listeners group, our Facebook page, Reddit, Blue Sky, or our Discord server. Have you already bought our book? The BarkerCast Interviews Occupy Midian, available in Amazon hardcover, Kindle, and Apple Books. Join our Patreon and become a patron to get access to exclusive stuff, pick an episode topic, or maybe join in the discussion. You can also buy a t-shirt in our TeePublic store. Just go to tpublic.com/stores/BarkerCast. Leave a voicemail for us on the SpeakPipe link on our blog, and we might put it in the episode. Opening and ending music generously provided by Ray Norrish.
Thanks for listening.